Hey there, travelers. Before we dive into today's story, drop a comment below telling us where you're tuning in from. Now let's begin our journey into the unknown. The camera's red recording light stared at me. I watched the woman in the chair, Maria something, already forgotten her last name, rock back and forth, fingers working invisible rosary beads. The angel spoke to me, she whispered. His voice was thunder and honey. He said I was chosen. I nodded, wearing my sympathetic face, the one I'd practiced until it looked real. And what did he ask you to witness? The end. The beginning. The truth churches hide. Her eyes begged for validation. You believe me, don't you? I didn't. Never did. My name is Simon Nixon, and I'm a professional liar. I exploit people's delusions for money. My business card says documentary filmmaker. What I actually do is interview people claiming supernatural experiences, edit their testimonies into watchable content, and sell footage to websites that think Bigfoot is real. It pays rent. Barely. Maria kept talking. Wings of golden light, eyes holding galaxies. Humanity's destiny. I'd heard 17 variations in 4 months. Angels, demons, possessions, divine revelations. Different flavors of the same desperate need to matter. I understood the impulse. Didn't respect it. That's incredible, Maria. I checked my watch. 43 minutes. Good enough. I think we have everything. This testimony will help so many people. Hope bloomed on her face. Raw. Painful. Really? Absolutely. The lie came easy. Always did. You're brave for sharing. I walked her to the door of my apartment. 400 square feet of stained carpet and peeling wallpaper in Northeast Philadelphia, where rent was cheap because nothing else was. After she left, I transferred footage and started editing, cutting her tears, removing contradictions, adding ominous music from a royalty-free site, making her delusion marketable. This was my life. 3 years of exploiting the faithful. I'd interviewed people claiming demon possession. A guy from Camden who insisted he was a vampire. A woman from Wilmington channeling the Virgin Mary. A Trenton teenager who believed he was the Antichrist. Not one ever gave me reason to believe. Not one showed anything beyond mental illness, drugs, or desperate attention-seeking. I had no tragic backstory making me cynical. No dead parents or lost love. Grew up comfortable in suburbs, decent grades. 2 years community college before dropping out. Parents still alive, still disappointed. Brother in Seattle. I hadn't talked to in 4 years. Handful of acquaintances I called friends, but couldn't name one real fact about. 32 years old. Never formed a genuine connection with another human. Not from trauma, just apathy. Easier to keep distance. Easier to lie. Easier to move through life touching nothing, letting nothing touch me. The documentary thing started accidentally. Met a guy at a bar claiming alien abduction. Drunk and bored, I filmed him on my phone. Posted it as a joke. Someone offered $50 for raw footage. That's when I realized there's a market. People want to believe. People who want to believe will pay for confirmation. So I bought a cheap camera, set up a website, reached out to people posting in paranormal forums at 3 a.m. My pitch. I'm documenting supernatural experiences for a series about modern faith. Your story matters. Most said yes. The delusional always did. I finished editing Maria around midnight. Uploaded it. Sent invoice for $300. They'd pay $250. Didn't matter. Next week someone else would come. Always someone else. My apartment was quiet except for traffic on Roosevelt Boulevard. I lived alone. Always had. Relationships required vulnerability. I'd made it 32 years without being vulnerable to anyone. The thought of letting someone know the real me made my skin crawl. I poured whiskey into a mug and opened email. 16 messages, mostly spam. One from my landlord about overdue rent. Another from my brother I deleted without reading. And one from nsobel1974@gmail.com. Subject, an opportunity for truth. I almost deleted it. Should have. But something about the phrasing made me pause. Not the truth with capital T nonsense. Just an opportunity for truth. Simple. Direct. I opened it. Mr. Nixon, I've been following your work documenting spiritual testimonies. I have a story different from your usual subjects. I'm not delusional, not seeking attention, not interested in your validation. I'm offering $500 cash for a single interview. 2 hours. I'll come to your location. You may record everything. Publish however you wish. Only requirement: listen without interruption until I finish. No questions until I'm done. Just witness. If interested, respond. We can meet this week. Norman Sobel. $500, cash, 2 hours. I typed immediately. I'm interested. When and where? Reply came within minutes. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Your address is 2847 Emerald Street, apartment 3C, correct? My stomach dropped. I'd never published my home address. Never given it to clients. How did he know? Should have been afraid. Should have seen red flags. Instead, just curious and greedy. I typed, "That's correct. See you at 8. His response, "Good." I spent the next day half convinced he wouldn't show. 500 was too much. Either scam or dangerous or both. But I didn't cancel. Didn't take precautions. Just set up camera, cleared space, waited. 7:58 p.m. Someone knocked. I checked the peephole. Average height man, mid-40s. Dark hair graying at temples, jeans and black jacket, manila envelope in hand. Didn't look dangerous. Didn't look crazy. Looked like someone's accountant. I opened the door. "Mr. Nixon." Calm, measured voice. Measured. "I'm Norman Sobel. May I come in?" "Yeah, sure." He entered, glanced around without judgment, sat in the chair across from my camera, placed envelope on the coffee table. $500. Count it if you'd like. I opened it. 10 $50 bills. Crisp. Sequential. Real. "You said you wanted to record," Norman continued. "Please, I meant it. Publish everything. I hope you will." I turned on camera, adjusted angle. "How did you get my address?" "You used to list it on your website contact page. Took it down 8 months ago, but internet remembers." Small smile. "I'm not stalking you, just thorough. Reasonable, plausible." I accepted it. "All right." I sat across from him, notepad ready. "You said your story's different from my usual subjects. Tell me about it." Norman leaned back, completely relaxed. "I was like you once, Mr. Nixon. Going through motions, no real connections, no genuine beliefs. Just existing on life's surface, never letting anything matter. Uncomfortable prickle of recognition." I said nothing. 3 years ago, I had a crisis. Lost my job. Ended a relationship that was never real. Found myself alone in an apartment not unlike this, wondering what the point was. He paused. That's when I found a Bible someone left on the subway. Old King James, half the pages loose. Took it home. Started reading. Here it comes, I thought. The conversion testimony. Found Jesus, life changed, hallelujah. "I didn't find God," Norman said, reading my thoughts. "Rather, I found God. But that's not what changed me. What changed me was discovering what else was there. What theologians don't discuss, what churches explain away or ignore." He leaned forward. "Tell me, Mr. Nixon, how many people claiming demon possession have you interviewed?" 6 or 7. And they all talked about Satan, yes? Lucifer, the devil, the great adversary. Usually. Did any actually know scripture? Quote chapter and verse? Describe theological frameworks? His eyes intense now. Or did they just regurgitate what they'd seen in movies? I thought about it. The second thing, mostly. Exactly. Because real biblical demonology is stranger and more terrifying than Hollywood understands. He settled back. "Let me educate you. Part of the interview." I gestured for him to continue, genuinely curious despite myself. "Abaddon," Norman said. Revelation 9:11. The angel of the abyss. Not a fallen angel. An angel of destruction created by God. His name means place of destruction in Hebrew. Apollyon in Greek. His job is tormenting humanity during apocalypse. Not a rebel. A servant doing exactly what he was made to do. He ticked off another finger. Beelzebub. Lord of the Flies. Matthew 12:24 calls him Prince of Demons. But originally, Baal-zebub, a Philistine god. The Israelites turned a rival deity into a demon to discredit him. Political propaganda becoming religious doctrine. Another finger. Leviathan. Job 41 describes it. Massive sea creature with impenetrable scales, breathing fire, impossibly powerful. Nothing on earth is its equal, God says. Not a demon, not Satan. A creature God created to demonstrate his power. And it still exists, Job says. Somewhere in the depths. I was taking notes. More coherent than most interviews. Behemoth, Norman continued. Job 40. Land creature matching Leviathan. It ranks first among the works of God. Tail like cedar tree, bones like bronze, drinks entire rivers. Another demonstration of God's creative power. Another thing that shouldn't exist but does. He paused, watching. See the pattern, Mr. Nixon? The Bible is full of entities not fitting neat categories. Not angels, not demons, not human. Things existing before the fall. Things outside the cosmic war between heaven and hell. Okay, I said slowly. So the Bible has weird creatures. That's not exactly... I'm not finished. Voice calm, but firm. Genesis 6:4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. Angels breeding with human women, creating giants. Warriors of legend. This actually happened, according to Scripture. And it says also afterward, meaning even after the flood, they returned. He stood, paced slowly. Ezekiel's visions. Chapter 1. He sees the Ophanim, wheels within wheels, covered entirely in eyes. Cherubim with 4 faces, man, lion, ox, eagle. Not fat babies with harps. Alien geometries making him fall on his face in terror. These guard God's throne. These are his servants. Norman turned to face me. Isaiah 6. The seraphim. 6 winged beings of pure fire surrounding God's throne, constantly burning, constantly crying, "Holy, holy, holy." So overwhelming Isaiah thinks he'll die just seeing them. And they're the good guys, Mr. Nixon. The ones on God's side. I get it, I said. The Bible has scary angels. But you said you found something different. I did. Norman sat again, hands folded calmly. But first, let me ask something. You've documented testimonies from Christians, Muslims, New Age spiritualists, others. Each claims exclusive truth, correct? Pretty much. Christianity says Jesus is the only path. Islam says Muhammad is the final prophet. Judaism rejects both. Hinduism has millions of gods. Buddhism has none. Mormons add extra books. Scientology invents alien overlords. Voice measured, academic. They can't all be right. So either all are wrong, or one is correct and has suppressed the others for millennia, or... He paused. Or what? I asked. Or there's something they're all trying to describe, and none have the complete picture. Like blind men examining an elephant. Each convinced their part is the whole truth. I'd heard that metaphor. So all religions are partially correct? I'm saying all religions are partially correct about powers beyond human understanding existing. But they've misidentified what those powers are, misunderstood the relationship, built entire theologies on incomplete information. Norman pulled a small, worn notebook from his jacket. When I started really reading, not just the Bible, but Apocrypha, Dead Sea Scrolls, Gnostic texts, Book of Enoch, I found references that terrified early theologians into silence, passages not fitting, entities challenging the entire framework. He opened the notebook, flipped through pages covered in tiny handwriting. Book of Enoch, banned from most biblical canons. Know why? Because it describes the Watchers, 200 angels who rebelled not after creation but during it. Describes forbidden knowledge they taught humanity. Warfare, cosmetics, astrology, metallurgy, things we weren't supposed to know. And describes their punishment. Bound beneath earth until final judgment. Still sounds like angels and demons, I said. Does it? Norman looked up. Because Enoch also describes Azazel, one of the Watchers' leaders, and in the Day of Atonement ritual, Leviticus 16, the Israelites are commanded to sacrifice 2 goats, one for God, one for Azazel. Not to God as punishment for Azazel, to Azazel. A sacrifice made to a bound entity to appease it. He closed the notebook. Why would God command his people to sacrifice to a fallen angel? Unless that entity wasn't fallen. Unless it served a different purpose. The apartment felt colder. I told myself it was just the heater cycling off. The Gnostic texts, Norman continued, describe the demiurge, a flawed creator god who made the material world as prison for divine sparks. Gnostics believed the God of the Old Testament wasn't the true God, but this demiurge, well-meaning but limited, jealous, angry, all too human. That's heresy, I said automatically, then felt stupid. I didn't believe in God. Why care about heresy? It's an interpretation, Norman corrected, based on reading the same text differently. And it raises questions. Why does God need to rest after creating? Why doesn't he know where Adam is hiding? Why does he regret making humanity and drown the world? Why does he harden Pharaoh's heart just to demonstrate power? These aren't actions of an omniscient, omnipotent being. He leaned forward. Unless there's something else. Something the texts hint at but never fully explain. Something existing before Genesis 1:1. Before in the beginning, I said, playing along. Exactly. Genesis 1:2. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. Darkness existed before God said, "Let there be light." The deep existed. Formlessness existed. God didn't create these things. He found them, organized them, imposed order on chaos. Norman's voice dropped. But chaos doesn't just disappear because you organize it. It waits. It persists. And eventually, organization breaks down. Order decays. Everything returns to entropy. You're talking physics now, not theology. I'm talking both. They're the same thing. He pulled out another item, a piece of paper, folded carefully. Isaiah 45:7. God speaking, I form the light and create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, do all these things. He unfolded the paper, showing me the verse printed in several translations. Create darkness, Norman repeated. The Hebrew word is bara, same word used in Genesis for God's creation, ex nihilo, creating from nothing. But darkness already existed in Genesis 1:2. So is God claiming to have created something preceding his creative act? Or is this verse revealing something else? Like what? That darkness isn't the absence of light. It's a presence, an entity, a force equal and opposite to creation. He refolded the paper, carefully, precisely. Every culture has creation myths, Mr. Nixon. Egyptian, Sumerian, Norse, Hindu, dozens more. Almost all include primordial darkness, a void, a chaos existing before order. Greeks called it Erebus, personification of deep darkness. Egyptians called it Nun, dark waters before creation. Norse had Ginnungagap, the yawning void. Norman looked at me intently. What if they weren't myths? What if every culture was describing the same thing? Not God's absence, but something else's presence. God's equal, his opposite, his brother, I finished, surprising myself. Norman smiled, not pleasant, knowing. Yes, though that's metaphorical. They're not siblings biologically, but they're complementary, twin aspects of existence. God is presence, creation, light, order, being. And the other is absence, destruction, darkness, chaos, non-being. And you worship this darkness? I worship Erebus, Norman said simply. Though worship isn't quite right, I acknowledge him, accept him, prepare for him. The name hung in the air. Erebus. I'd heard it vaguely. Greek mythology. Primordial deity of darkness. Why that name specifically? Because it's old. Pre-Christian. The early church couldn't corrupt or subsume it into their theology. They tried, turned him into a place, the dark region of Hades, depersonalized him, made him geography instead of entity. His hands perfectly still on his knees. But the name persists, and some of us remember what it really means. Some of you, I repeated. So there are others? Not many. Most people glimpsing the truth can't accept it. They retreat into comfortable lies, God is all-powerful. Good always triumphs. There's a plan we can't understand. Anything to avoid confronting what the texts actually say. Norman stood, walked to my window, looked out at Philadelphia streets below. I've been shown things, Mr. Nixon. Things that changed how I see everything. Things that prove Erebus isn't mythology. He's real. He's waiting. And he's coming. He turned from the window, and something in his expression made my breath catch. I'm his first prophet, his first witness, and soon, very soon, everyone will know the truth. The camera kept recording, the red light steady. The shadows in my apartment seemed to lean closer, listening. Next time, Norman said quietly, I'll tell you everything. What Erebus showed me, what's coming, what it means for all of us. He checked his watch. 2 hours. Our agreement fulfilled. He pulled out his wallet, added another 100 to the envelope. For your time. For listening without interruption. There's going to be a next time? I asked. If you're willing. Same price. Same terms. Norman walked to the door. But I suspect you'll want to hear the rest. You're curious now, aren't you? Despite yourself. He was right. I hated that he was right. Tomorrow night, Norman said. Same time. I'll tell you about God's exhaustion, about the deal, about what's waiting in the shadows. The door closed softly behind him. I sat alone with my camera still recording, staring at the $600 on my table, wondering what the hell I'd just agreed to. I didn't sleep that night. Kept the lights on. Every shadow in my apartment seemed to breathe. By morning, I'd convinced myself it was all suggestion. Norman was just another religious fanatic with above-average knowledge of obscure theology. The money was real, the interview was recorded, and I'd turn it into content like everything else. But I couldn't stop researching. I spent the entire day diving into the texts Norman had mentioned. Book of Enoch, banned from most Bibles because it described things too strange, too specific. The Watchers weren't just rebellious angels. They were teachers, corruptors, beings who showed humanity knowledge we weren't ready for. The Gnostic Gospels painted God as the demiurge, a lesser deity who thought he was supreme, who created the material world as a prison, who demanded worship out of insecurity, not love. Every creation myth across cultures mentioned primordial darkness, chaos preceding order, the void before existence. What if Norman was right? What if every religion was describing the same entities from different angles, none seeing the complete picture? I shook my head. This was exactly what he wanted. Planting doubt, making me question. Classic cult recruitment tactics. My phone buzzed at 6 p.m. Email from Norman. Tonight. Same time. I'll tell you everything else. The rest of what Erebus showed me. What's coming. What it means. I should have said no. Should have blocked his address and moved on with my life. I typed, same price? His reply, $1,000 this time. The truth is worth more. $1,000 for a few hours of listening to theological rambling. I'd be an idiot to refuse. Deal, I typed. At exactly 8 p.m. Norman knocked. Same manila envelope, same calm demeanor. But something about him had changed. His eyes looked darker. Pupils dilated even in the bright hallway light. Mr. Nixon, he entered without waiting for invitation. Thank you for agreeing to continue. I set up the camera again. He placed the envelope on the table. I could see the thickness of it. He wasn't lying about the $1,000. Last time, I said, pressing record, you told me about Erebus, about the darkness that existed before God created light. You said you're his prophet, that you've seen visions of what's coming. That's correct. Norman sat in the same chair, hands folded in the same position, like he hadn't moved in 24 hours. You also said God is dying, weakening, that he's made some kind of deal with Erebus to reset everything. Also correct. Tonight, I'll explain exactly why God is failing, why humanity has pushed him past the breaking point, and what Erebus's children will do when they're finally released. Norman's voice was steady, academic. Are you ready to hear this? I nodded, pen ready. Then let me start with a question, Norman said. Do you know how many prayers God receives every day? No idea. Billions. Conservative estimate. 3 billion prayers daily from believers across all faiths. Christians alone number 2.4 billion. Muslims 1.9 billion, Hindus over a billion. Jews, Buddhists who pray to bodhisattvas, folk religions, countless others. He leaned forward slightly. Imagine 3 billion voices crying out simultaneously. 3 billion demands for attention, intervention, miracles. God is supposed to be omnipotent, I said. Omnipotence doesn't mean unlimited capacity. It means unlimited power. But power requires will, attention, focus. Norman pulled out his notebook, opened to a page covered in calculations. Think of it like this. God maintains the laws of physics across the entire universe. Every quantum interaction, every gravitational pull, every chemical bond. The sheer computational complexity of keeping reality stable is beyond human comprehension. He tapped the notebook. Now add consciousness. Human brains are the most complex structures in the known universe. 100 billion neurons, each making thousands of connections. 8 billion human minds generating thoughts, emotions, choices, prayers. All of it requiring divine oversight if God truly has a plan for everyone. So you're saying God is overworked? I'm saying God is exhausted, drained, reaching the limits of even divine endurance. Norman closed the notebook. The Old Testament shows a God who could focus his attention. A few million Israelites, concentrated intervention, burning bushes, pillars of fire, direct communication. He stood, began pacing. Exodus 3. God speaks to Moses from the burning bush. Personal conversation, detailed instructions, complete attention. Exodus 13. Pillar of cloud by day, pillar of fire by night, guiding the Israelites. Constant, visible presence. Exodus 14. Parting the Red Sea. Reality-bending miracle requiring tremendous power and focus. Norman turned to face me. Now fast forward to the New Testament. God speaks directly maybe 3 times. At Jesus' baptism. At the Transfiguration. That's it. The rest is Jesus acting as intermediary. God working through human agency, because he no longer has the capacity for constant direct intervention. That's just theology evolving, I said. The Old Testament was written when people believed God was more active. Or it was written when God actually was more active because he could afford to be. Norman sat back down. Population of Earth during Moses' time. Roughly 50 million people total. Population during Jesus' time, 300 million. Current population, 8 billion. That's a 26-fold increase since Jesus walked the earth. He pulled out another piece of paper, this one showing a graph. And it's not just population, it's complexity. Ancient humans had simpler lives, agriculture, family, basic survival. Modern humans have financial markets, nuclear weapons, global communications, environmental catastrophe, ideological warfare. Each human generating exponentially more chaos, more problems, more need for divine intervention. Norman's finger traced the upward curve on the graph. God's power hasn't diminished, but his capacity to apply that power effectively is finite. He's like a parent trying to watch 8 billion children simultaneously. Each child screaming, each child demanding attention, each child creating problems that need solutions. And he's burning out, I said quietly. He's been burning out for centuries. 2,000 years of progressive withdrawal. 2,000 years of silence growing deeper. Norman looked at me intently. When was the last verified miracle, Mr. Nixon? Not someone claiming they were healed. Not coincidences people attribute to prayer. An actual, undeniable, reality-breaking miracle that no one could explain away? I thought about it. Couldn't come up with anything. Exactly. The age of miracles ended because God no longer has the bandwidth. He's maintaining reality itself, keeping the universe from collapsing into chaos. But he's stopped intervening in human affairs because he simply can't anymore. There's too much. Too many of us. Too much suffering. Too much evil. Norman stood again, walked to my window. And then there's what humanity has done. What we've become. God made us in His image, gave us free will, creativity, the capacity for love. And how have we used those gifts? He stared out at the Philadelphia streets. We've created weapons that can end all life on Earth. Multiple nations have nuclear arsenals capable of rendering the planet uninhabitable. We've designed biological weapons, engineered plagues that could wipe out billions, chemical weapons that cause unimaginable suffering, all of this created by beings made in God's image. His voice grew harder. We've destroyed the planet He gave us. Deforestation, ocean acidification, mass extinction events, climate change. We're in the middle of the sixth great extinction, caused entirely by human activity. Species disappearing at rates not seen since the dinosaurs died out. And we know we're doing it. We have the knowledge. We just don't care enough to stop. Norman turned from the window. We've turned fellow humans into commodities. Human trafficking generates $32 billion annually. Millions of people, children, bought and sold like products. We've industrialized cruelty, created systems of oppression so complex and entrenched that suffering becomes background noise. He walked back toward me. We worship false idols, not golden calves anymore. We're too sophisticated for that. We worship money, power, celebrity, technology, ourselves. We've made gods of corporations, influencers, politicians. We pray to algorithms for validation. We sacrifice our time, our relationships, our mental health to feeds that never satisfy. Norman sat down heavily. God looks at what we've become and sees His image perverted beyond recognition. We're not His children anymore. We're parasites. Cancer cells destroying the body we inhabit. And He's tired, Mr. Nixon. So profoundly tired. The apartment was silent except for the camera's faint mechanical hum. Revelation 21:5, Norman said quietly. He who was seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Not improving what exists. Not redeeming what's broken. Making everything new. Starting over. He looked at me. God is preparing to do exactly that. And He's made a deal with Erebus to accomplish it. Tell me about the deal, I said, surprised by how much I wanted to know. Norman pulled out his notebook again, opened to a page covered not in writing, but in a sketch. Two figures facing each other across a void. One radiating light. One absorbing it. I saw this in a vision 3 months ago. The clearest one Erebus has ever sent me. His finger traced the drawing. God and Erebus meeting in the space between existence and non-existence. The place outside time, outside reality, where only they can go. What did they say? They don't speak in words. They communicate in pure concept, pure understanding. But I'll translate it as best I can. Norman closed his eyes, remembering. God said, I am weary. My creation has failed. They destroy everything I give them. They worship themselves. They have become worse than the rebellion of Lucifer, because at least he knew what he was rejecting. They don't even recognize me anymore. Norman's voice changed slightly, deepened. Erebus responded, Then let me have them back. Let me reclaim what was mine before you spoke. The void existed before your word. It will exist after. This is not defeat. This is acknowledgement of reality. Creation requires destruction to create again. He opened his eyes. God said, If I withdraw my light, chaos will consume everything, not just humanity. All creation, every living thing, every planet, every star, the entire universe will unravel. And Erebus said, Yes, as it should, as it was meant to. You created order from chaos, but order cannot sustain itself forever. Entropy is fundamental. Everything returns to equilibrium. Everything returns to me eventually. Why delay the inevitable? Norman's hands were trembling slightly. God considered this, and then he made an offer. If I allow you to reclaim creation, will you help me rebuild? Will we create together this time? Balance light and dark? Make something that can sustain itself without my constant intervention? Erebus agreed. Yes, this time we will create as equals, not light imposing order on darkness, but light and dark in balance. Life and death, creation and destruction, being and non-being, all as one. Norman set down the notebook. That was the deal. God will withdraw his light from the universe. Erebus will send his children to consume everything. The universe will return to void. And then, only then, they will create something new together. Something balanced. Something that won't require God to exhaust himself maintaining it. And humanity just ends, I asked. We end. All life ends. Everything ends. The great filter. The reason we haven't found alien civilizations in the universe. It's not technology or distance or biology. It's this. Every civilization reaches a point where it becomes too much for its creator deity to sustain, and then darkness reclaims it all. Norman leaned forward. We're not special, Mr. Nixon. We're not the first world God created. We're just the latest. And we won't be the last. We're part of a cycle. Creation, corruption, consumption, recreation. It's happened before. It will happen again. We just have the misfortune of living during a consumption phase. I felt cold. How many times has this happened? I don't know. Erebus showed me glimpses. Dead planets, extinct stars, galaxies that burned out long before humanity existed. Each one bearing traces of civilizations that rose and fell and were consumed by darkness. We're not unique. We're just... Next. He stood. He walked to my bookshelf, pulled out a random book without looking at it. The Bible hints at this. Job 38:4-7. God asks Job, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? While the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy." Morning stars, plural. Stars that existed before Earth. Stars that had angels. Meaning this wasn't God's first creation. Just another in a series. Norman put the book back. Ecclesiastes 1:9. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Not philosophy. Observation. The writer of Ecclesiastes understood the cycle. Creation and destruction, repeating endlessly. So there's no hope, I said. No way to stop it. No hope of stopping it. But there is a choice in how you face it. Norman returned to his chair. You can deny it. Spend your remaining time pretending everything's normal. That tomorrow will come. That life will continue. Die terrified and confused when the darkness comes. Or you can accept it. Embrace it. Understand that what's coming isn't evil. It's necessary. It's natural. It's the other half of existence that we've been taught to fear, but shouldn't. His eyes gleamed. That's what Erebus offers. Not salvation. Acceptance. Peace through understanding. Tell me about his children, I said. You mentioned them last time. The things that will consume us. Norman's expression shifted, became almost reverent. They're beautiful, Mr. Nixon, in a way that transcends human aesthetics. They're the physical manifestation of entropy, of return, of the universe's fundamental tendency toward equilibrium. He pulled out another sketch from his notebook. This one showed vaguely humanoid shapes made of something darker than the paper around them. They exist in the spaces between light particles, between moments of time, between dimensions of reality. They've always been there. We just can't perceive them because our consciousness is built on patterns, and they are anti-pattern. They are the static between signals, the silence between sounds, the gap between thoughts. What do they look like? Imagine darkness so complete it absorbs not just light, but the concept of light. Not black. Black is still a color, still something. Their absence, void. Nothing shaped like something. Norman's voice was soft. When they manifest fully, they don't reflect light. They consume it. Photons entering their space simply cease to exist. They become holes in reality, tears in the fabric of what is. And they feed on light, I said, remembering. On all forms of light. Physical photons, yes, but also bioelectricity, the electrical impulses in neurons. The quantum coherence theorists believe generates consciousness. The light religious traditions talk about. The soul, the spirit, the essential spark of being. Norman traced the shapes in his drawing. When they consume something living, they don't kill it. Death implies the body stopping while something else, the soul, continues. They don't kill, they erase. They drain the light of consciousness, the electrical patterns that make you you, and leave behind an empty shell. The body remains, technically alive for a few moments, but the person is gone, completely. No afterlife, no continuation, just gone. That's horrifying. That's honest. Norman looked up at me. Every religion promises continuation. Heaven, hell, reincarnation, spiritual energy joining the universe, something persists. But that's comfort. That's denial of what actually happens. When you die, you stop. The pattern of electricity that was your consciousness disperses. The light goes out. Erebus's children just accelerate the process and reclaim that light before it disperses naturally. He put away the notebook. They've been waiting, Mr. Nixon, existing in the shadows for billions of years. Patient, hungry, held back only by God's light. But as God withdraws, as his exhaustion deepens, they're beginning to manifest, just briefly, just at the edges, testing how far they can emerge before God's remaining power pushes them back. The shadow sightings, I said. People reporting seeing things in the dark. Those aren't hallucinations. Those are reconnaissance. Erebus's children learning our world, mapping where the light is weakest, finding the places they'll emerge first when the consumption begins. Norman leaned forward. It's already starting. Have you noticed the anomalies? Electronics malfunctioning more frequently. Lights flickering for no reason. Batteries draining impossibly fast. Shadows that seem too deep, too solid, too aware. I had noticed. Dismissed it as confirmation bias. Old infrastructure. Cheap devices. Those are symptoms of their presence, Norman continued. They feed on light, all light, including electricity. When they're near, even briefly, they drain energy, not intentionally. They just do, like how a black hole bends light. It's not trying to. It just does because of what it is. How many of them are there? Impossible to count. Millions, billions, maybe infinite. Erebus might be able to create them endlessly from the void. The number doesn't matter. Even 1,000 would be enough to consume all life on Earth within weeks. He stood, walked to the center of my small apartment. Let me describe how it will happen. The timeline Erebus showed me. Norman's voice took on a lecturing quality. Phase 1. The dimming. It's already begun. The sun is weakening. Not dying naturally. It has 5 billion years left. But God's light sustaining it is fading. Scientists will measure it, create theories, try to explain it. Solar cycle anomalies, cosmic ray interference, whatever sounds plausible. But the truth is simpler. God is withdrawing. Phase 2. The manifestations. As the sun dims, Erebus's children will begin appearing in areas of deep shadow, underground spaces, dense forests at night, old buildings with no electricity. People will see them, report them. Most won't be believed, but the sightings will increase, exponentially. Phase 3. The first consumption. Someone will be taken, completely. One moment there, next moment gone. Not disappeared, consumed. Witnesses will report seeing shadows move, hearing a sound like reality tearing, and then the person just isn't anymore. Empty clothes, no body, no trace, just absence. Norman's eyes were distant now, seeing something I couldn't. Phase 4. The spread. Once they taste consciousness, once they successfully consume a human soul, they'll grow bolder, stronger. One consumption leads to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 16. Exponential growth. They'll begin manifesting in broader areas. Not just deep shadows, but any shadow. Under beds, in closets, beneath cars. Every dark space becomes a potential entry point. Phase 5. The collapse. Within 2 weeks of the first consumption, society breaks down. How do you fight something that can't be hurt? Something that doesn't exist in physical space the way we understand it? Bullets pass through. Fire doesn't burn them. They consume the light of the flames. Nuclear weapons would only create more shadows, more entry points. His voice grew quieter. Governments will try martial law. Won't work. Religions will hold mass prayers. God won't answer, he's already made his choice. Scientists will desperately seek solutions. There are none. Because this isn't a problem to be solved. It's the ending of a chapter. Phase 6. The acceleration. The sun continues dimming. Faster now. Visibly. Day becomes twilight. Twilight becomes dusk. Dusk becomes night. And night becomes something deeper. Something wrong. Darkness that isn't just absence of light but presence of something else. Phase 7. The final darkness. Erebus himself manifests. Not fully. That's impossible while any light remains. But partially. Enough. He reaches for the sun the way you might reach for a candle, and snuffs it out. Not explosively, just stops its fusion. Stops the light. Stops everything. Norman's voice was barely a whisper now. Phase 8. The consumption. In total darkness, Erebus's children spread across the earth unimpeded. Every living thing, every human, animal, plant, bacteria, everything with the spark of life, consumed, drained, erased, returned to void. Within days, maybe hours, Earth becomes a barren rock, silent, dead, perfect. Phase 9, the universal reset. With Earth gone, Erebus turns to the stars, one by one, galaxy by galaxy. The universe unravels, reality itself dissolves. Everything returns to what it was before Genesis 1:1. Before, let there be light. Before anything. Phase 10. The new creation. And then, in that perfect void, God and Erebus create together. Something balanced. Something that can sustain itself. Something we can't even imagine because it will be fundamentally different from anything that's existed before. Norman sat down, exhausted from the telling. That's what's coming, Mr. Nixon. That's what Erebus showed me. The complete timeline from now until the new beginning. I realized I'd stopped taking notes, just staring. When? I managed to ask. Soon, months, maybe. The dimming is accelerating. I check solar luminosity data daily. It's dropping faster than it should. Scientists are starting to notice, starting to worry. They don't understand why yet, but they will. Soon enough they will. Norman reached into his jacket, pulled out one more item. A printout of scientific data. Solar radiation measurements over the past year. A clear downward trend. This is real data. From NASA, from the European Space Agency, from independent observatories worldwide. The sun is dimming. 0.3% in the last year. Doesn't sound like much, but it's unprecedented, and it's accelerating. He handed me the printout. By my calculations, Norman said, pulling out the solar data printout. Phase 2, visible manifestations in deep shadows, has already begun. You've seen them in your apartment. Phase 3, isolated consumptions in remote areas, will start within 2 months. He traced the downward curve on the graph. Phase 4, first public consumption witnessed by thousands, in 4 to 6 months. From that point, exponential spread. Society collapses within weeks. Total darkness within 8 to 10 months from now. Norman looked up at me. But that's assuming the dimming rate stays constant. If God's withdrawal accelerates, and I suspect it will, everything happens faster, much faster. And you're okay with this, I said. Not a question. An accusation. I'm at peace with it, Norman corrected. Because I understand it. Because Erebus showed me the necessity. Showed me the beauty of return. Showed me that what we call death is just transformation. Energy-changing states. And what his children do is just accelerating the inevitable. He stood, checked his watch. 2 hours again. Our agreement fulfilled. He gestured to the envelope. Count it if you'd like. $1,000. For bearing witness to the prophecy. I didn't touch the money. Why tell me this? Why document it? Because someone should know. Someone should understand what's happening when it begins. And someone should recognize that I told the truth when you start seeing the signs I described. Norman walked to the door, paused with his hand on the knob. You'll see them soon, Mr. Nixon. The shadows. They're already watching you. Have been since our first interview. They can sense who knows about them, who understands. They're curious about you now. He opened the door. Next time we meet, it will be at the end, when I fulfill my role as first prophet, first willing sacrifice. I'll contact you when it's time, when they're ready to take me, and you'll witness the truth of everything I've told you. Norman, I started. Don't try to stop it. Don't try to warn anyone. No one will believe you. And even if they did, there's nothing anyone can do. Just watch, document, understand, and when your time comes, try to accept it rather than fight it. The acceptance makes it easier. He stepped into the hallway. The shadows are thicker around you now. Can you feel them? That's them. That's Erebus's children, already drawn to you because you know, because you've heard the truth. They don't mean you harm. Not yet. They're just aware of you. The door closed. I sat alone in my apartment, camera still recording, staring at the $1,000 on my table, and I realized Norman was right. The shadows in my apartment were darker than they should be, thicker, more present, and they were watching me. I could feel it. 3 days. 3 days of shadows moving wrong. 3 days of not sleeping. The apartment felt different after the second interview, colder. The corners held pockets of darkness that electric light couldn't quite penetrate. I'd stand in the center of the room with every lamp on and still feel the weight of something watching from spaces that shouldn't exist. I published both interviews online. Added dramatic titles: Man Claims to Worship Entity Older Than God, and The Prophecy of Erebus, The Coming Darkness. Got the usual response. Few hundred views. Comments ranging from creative fiction to "this guy needs help" to actually pretty unsettling theology. No one believed, exactly as Norman predicted. But I couldn't stop researching. Every mythology mentioned primordial darkness. Sumerian Tiamat, chaos dragon defeated by Marduk. Egyptian Nun, infinite dark waters before Ra. Norse Ginnungagap, yawning void between fire and ice. Same pattern everywhere. Chaos before order. Darkness before light. Something existing before the creator deity imposed structure. What if they were all describing Erebus? I checked solar data obsessively. NASA, ESA, independent observatories. The dimming was real. 0.37% in 14 months. Scientists publishing cautious papers. Anomalous solar activity. Unexpected luminosity variations. Further study required. They knew something was wrong. They just didn't know what. My apartment grew darker each night. Not subjectively. I measured it with a light meter. Same lamps, same bulbs, but 30% less illumination reaching the walls, like something was drinking the light between source and destination. Fourth night, 2:47 a.m. My phone's vibration woke me from a half-sleep I'd been pretending was rest. Email from Norman. Subject: It's time. My hands shook opening it. Tonight. Midnight. 1847, Frankfurt Avenue. Old Keystone Steel Factory. 3rd floor, central room. West door unlocked. They'll take me at midnight. First willing sacrifice. Come see the truth, Simon. Norman first name. He'd never used my first name before. I should have deleted it. Should have called someone. Should have done anything except what I did. I grabbed my camera. The drive to Frankfurt Avenue took 20 minutes through empty Philadelphia streets. 11:23 p.m. The factory loomed. 5 stories of broken windows and rusted steel. Chain link fence. Gate hanging open. No security, no lights. Just darkness that felt aware. I parked, grabbed camera, flashlight, phone with full battery, backup flashlight in pocket, backup battery, preparing for something I couldn't name. The shadows around the building were wrong. Too thick, too solid. I swept my flashlight across the fence line and the beam seemed to dim halfway across, like the darkness was resisting. Found the west entrance. Door unlocked, hanging crooked on rusted hinges. Pushed through into hallway thick with dust that hadn't been disturbed in years, except for a single set of footprints leading deeper into the building. Norman's footprints, 10 days old. No others. The building was silent. Not quiet, silent. In Philadelphia, there's always noise, traffic, distant sirens, wind, something. Here, nothing. like the structure existed in a pocket of absolute stillness. Climbed stairs. Each step echoed wrong, sound dying too quickly, absorbed by something invisible. My flashlight beam cut through darkness that pressed back against it. 3rd floor. Long hallway. Doors hanging open to rooms filled with debris and graffiti. Followed Norman's directions to the center of the building. Found the main production floor. Vast space, high ceiling, broken skylights showing dim stars. And in the center, standing perfectly still, arms at sides, was Norman. He didn't turn when I entered. Didn't acknowledge my presence. Just stood, facing away, utterly motionless. "Norman?" My voice echoed strangely, flattened. "You came." Calm, peaceful. "I'm glad. Someone should witness." I raised my flashlight, pointed it at him. He flinched violently, stumbled sideways out of the beam. "Please, the light. It hurts now. 10 days in total darkness. My eyes have adjusted to more than just physical darkness, to the spaces between, to them." I lowered the flashlight. "You've been here 10 days? Existing here, waiting, fasting, no food, no water, no light, learning to see what's always been there, learning to sense Erebus's children. They've been visiting, teaching, showing me what's coming." He turned to face me. In the faint starlight through broken skylights, I saw his face, gaunt, skin stretched tight over bones, lips cracked and bleeding. And his eyes, completely black. Not dilated pupils, black. Like darkness had replaced the irises entirely, filled the whites, consumed everything. "Jesus Christ, Norman, what happened to your eyes? They're changing me, preparing me to be consumed without resistance, making me compatible with the void. I can see them now, Simon. See them moving in every shadow. See them waiting for midnight, hundreds of them, gathered to witness." I fumbled with my camera, pressed record. Red light blinked on. Norman smiled at the camera light, teeth stained dark. "Documenting to the end. Good. People should see, should understand what's coming. You need a hospital, medical help. Your eyes, are seeing reality for the first time." He walked toward me slowly. I fought the urge to run. "You feel them too, the presence and shadows, the weight of their attention. They're here, Simon, all around us, dozens, maybe hundreds, gathered for the first willing sacrifice in this cycle." I swept my flashlight around, empty, just darkness, debris, broken machinery. But the shadows were wrong, too solid, too deep, moving independent of my light, shifting in ways that didn't match physics. "They're real," I whispered. "Always have been. You're finally allowing yourself to see." Norman stopped a few feet away. Smell coming off him. Not decay, but absence. Like standing near a freezer, but the cold wasn't temperature. It was something else. 11 minutes until midnight. Let me tell you what they've shown me these 10 days. The final truth. What truth? This has happened before. To Earth. Multiple times. His black eyes gleamed with reflected starlight. The Great Flood. Partial consumption. Erebus breaking through. God barely pushed him back. Had to drown the world to reset. Make it manageable. He gestured to darkness around us. The plagues of Egypt. Darkness covering the land 3 days. Exodus 10:21-23. Not metaphor. Erebus manifesting. Testing strength. Consuming portion of Egypt before God forced him back. Sodom and Gomorrah, not fire from heaven. Darkness consuming them. God covering it with explanation of judgment because truth was too horrifying. His opposite was breaking through. Balance failing even then. Norman's voice grew excited, fervent. Every mass extinction, Permian, 90% gone, Cretaceous, dinosaurs, all moments when Erebus broke through, when darkness consumed light, when God had to start over. But this time, he continued, God isn't fighting, he's allowing it, embracing it, because creation requires destruction, cycle is necessary, fighting Erebus is fighting entropy, a battle that can't be won, only delayed. 11:53 p.m. 7 minutes. Norman, please, we can leave, get help, this doesn't… Yes, it does. Firm. Certain. You don't understand yet. but you will. When you see me consumed, when you feel the truth of it. He walked to the room's center, directly under broken skylight. Starlight fell on him, and I realized the stars looked dimmer, muted, like even their light was dying. "They're gathering," Norman said, looking up. "I feel them. Hundreds, thousands, drawn to this moment. First willing sacrifice in this cycle. It matters to them." I raised my camera, filming. Red recording light pathetically small against darkness. "Simon, do you know what consciousness is? Physical reality, not philosophy. It's electricity. Patterns of impulses in neural tissue. Quantum coherence in microtubules. Light at subatomic level. Consciousness is literally light." He spread his arms. "When they consume me, they're reclaiming that light, returning it to void, to Erebus, to source. I'm not dying. I'm going home." 11:57 p.m. Temperature dropped, drastically. My breath misted thick. Frost formed on broken windows. Darkness thickened, became tangible. I could feel it pressing against my skin. "They're manifesting," Norman whispered. "Can you see?" I could. Shapes emerging from shadows. Not stepping, emerging. Darkness condensing into form. Vaguely humanoid, but proportions wrong. Limbs bending impossible directions. And their substance. Blacker than black. Darker than absence. Holes cut in reality itself. Dozens, surrounding us. Silent. Watching with senses I couldn't comprehend. My flashlight flickered, battery draining despite being fresh. Camera indicator dropped from full to half in seconds. Phone screen dimmed. All light dying in their presence. "They feed on light," Norman said calmly. "All light. Can't help but consume. It's their nature." 11:58 p.m. More shapes. Hundreds now. Filling the vast production floor. Pressing closer. Not threatening. Just present. Witnessing. Waiting. "Norman," my voice broke. "Please, don't do this." "I'm not doing anything. They are. I'm accepting what they offer." He lowered his arms. 1 minute until midnight. Until veil between existence and void is thinnest. Until Erebus can reach through his children fully. Shapes moved closer. Circling Norman, not touching yet. Surrounding. Patient. My flashlight died. Complete darkness except faint starlight and camera's dimming red light. "Simon," Norman's voice from darkness. "Don't be afraid. What you're about to see, it's not horror. It's truth. The end we all face eventually. I'm just facing it consciously, with acceptance, with peace I never found in life." 11:59 p.m. Shapes stopped, perfectly still. Pause before inevitable action. 30 seconds, Norman whispered. 30 seconds until I prove everything. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Hands shaking badly I could barely hold camera. 20 seconds. Darkness pressed inward. Not visual, ontological. Absence of existence pushing against tiny bubble of my being. 10 seconds. I wanted to run. Flee. Pretend this wasn't happening. But I couldn't move. Couldn't look away. 5, 4, 3. Norman's voice filled with something like joy, like release, like coming home. 2, 1. Midnight. Distant church bell tolled. The shadows moved. Not attacking. Not rushing. Just touching. Dozens of impossible forms reaching with limbs that weren't quite limbs, making contact with Norman's body. Where they touched, light appeared. Not external light. Light from within Norman. Luminescence bleeding through skin. His veins lit up like circuitry. Eyes blazing with radiance. Mouth opening. Light pouring out like water. He screamed. But not pain. Not fear. Ecstasy. Release. Something beyond human emotion. Something I'd never heard from a human throat. The shadow creatures weren't violent. They were gentle, reverent, drawing light out of him like water from well. And as they drew it, Norman changed, skin graying, becoming translucent. I could see through it to light being pulled from tissue, from organs, from bones. His skeleton glowed like neon tubes. His brain blazed like a star dying. "It's beautiful," he gasped between screams. "So beautiful. I can see everything. The void, the truth, the—" Words dissolved into pure sound, pure light flowing in streams, waves, consumed by shadow creatures surrounding him. And I felt it. Even yards away, I felt the pull, the draw, something in my chest responding, my consciousness recognizing what was happening. Light calling to light. Existence aware of void waiting to reclaim it. Norman's screams became laughter, became silence, his form transparent, light dimming as shadows drank it all. Body standing, but hollow, empty. Shell. For one moment, I saw what remained. Saw physical form without consciousness, without electrical patterns making him Norman. Just meat and bone and fluid, heart beating, lungs moving, but empty. Person gone. Just biological machine running on autopilot. Then even that collapsed. Body fell, crumpled like puppet with cut strings. Darkness consumed even that. Physical matter dissolving into shadow, into void, into nothing. Where Norman stood, emptiness. Shadow creatures motionless for 3 heartbeats. Then as one, they turned toward me. I couldn't breathe, move, think. Not approaching, observing. Dozens of voids shaped like witnesses, watching with senses beyond comprehension. Then I felt it, not heard, felt. Presence vaster than room, than building, than comprehension. Erebus himself, reaching through children, making contact with my mind. Not words, pure concept, pure knowing, flooding consciousness. I saw, moment before Genesis. True void, not darkness as absence, but darkness as fundamental state. Erebus existing alone, content, complete, eternal, God speaking. Let there be light, void violated, invaded, organized into patterns, structures, laws. Erebus pushed back, not destroyed, contained in shadows, in entropy, in spaces between. Billions of years, stars, planets, life, beautiful, temporary, always returning to void eventually. Earth, life spreading, humanity appearing. God's favorite, his image, his children. Humanity growing, multiplying, corrupting, destroying. Too much, too broken, too far from design. God's exhaustion, weight of 8 billion minds, impossibility of maintaining everything. Decision, deal, Erebus accepting, not triumphant, just accepting. This is nature of existence, creation and destruction, both necessary, both inevitable. I saw future, cities falling to darkness, weeks, maybe 2 months, dimming, accelerating, scientists panicking, governments mobilizing uselessly, religions praying to silence. First public consumption, New York, broad daylight, thousands witnessing, video spreading, panic beginning, shadow creatures everywhere, subways, offices, homes, schools, hunting, feeding, growing stronger, sun dimming visibly, day to twilight to dusk never ending, people fleeing, nowhere safe, military trying, bullets passing through, missiles destroying buildings, not darkness, nuclear weapons considered, rejected, would create more shadows, society collapsing, weeks, supply chains breaking, infrastructure failing, tribes around dying lights, billions consumed, one by one, families, friends, strangers, light drained, shells stopping, bodies dissolving, empty streets, sun stopping, not exploding, just ceasing, Erebus reaching across dimensions, stopping fusion at the star's core, the sun dying instantly. But for 8 eternal minutes, Earth continued receiving light from a star that no longer burned. Photons that had left the sun's surface before its death, traveling through void toward a world about to end. People looking up, not understanding. The sun looking the same, feeling the same, but already dead, already gone, living on borrowed light. Ghost photons from a corpse star. Then, exactly 8 minutes and 19 seconds after the sun's death, the last photon reached Earth. Sky went black. Not sunset black, not night black, absolute black. absence of all light, everywhere, simultaneously. In that perfect darkness, shadow creatures manifested fully, unimpeded, everywhere at once, consuming everything, every human, animal, plant, bacterium, all life, all existence. Stars, one by one. Galaxies dimming, universe unwinding, reality returning to void. Finally, God and Erebus, creating together, something new, balanced, light and dark intertwined, something we couldn't imagine. Vision ended. I was on knees, didn't remember falling, tears streaming, not fear, understanding, necessity, inevitability. Shadow creatures gone, alone with camera recording, 3% battery. Where Norman stood, no trace, just floor. 12:07 a.m., 7 minutes, felt like lifetimes. I drove home dazed, Philadelphia's shadows deeper, shapes moving in them. Watching. Downloaded footage. Watched 3 times. Everything visible. Norman, creatures, light pulled from body. Dissolution. Real. Documented. Provable. Tried uploading. Every platform rejected. Terms violation. Graphic content, automated filters blocking. Tried news organizations. Emails bounced. Attachments deleted. Universe preventing truth from spreading. Or Erebus wanting it contained until ignorance no longer mattered. Dawn approached. Weak sunlight. Weaker than yesterday. Solar data. 0.41% dimming. Accelerating. Scientists publishing emergency papers. Unexplained anomaly. Community baffled. They'd figure it out. Days, maybe weeks. Truth becoming undeniable. Then panic. Shadows watching me. Not hiding anymore. Phone buzzed. Email. Subject, thank you. From ensobel1974@gmail.com. Sent 12:15 a.m. Scheduled. The timestamp showed it had been scheduled to send 15 minutes after midnight. Written before. Sent automatically after. Simon, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Truly gone. I scheduled this message before the consumption, knowing I wouldn't exist to send it after. What I will experience in those final moments, I can only imagine. The beauty, the peace, the return to source. But the part of me that will experience it won't exist to remember. Won't exist to tell you about it. That's the point. Complete cessation. No continuation. No afterlife. Just return to the fundamental state of reality. I write this now, before midnight, still whole, still conscious, to tell you, I'm not afraid. I'm ready. This is what I choose. When your time comes, and it will come soon, for all of you, remember what you witnessed. Remember that resistance creates suffering. Acceptance creates peace. The darkness is not your enemy. It's your origin, your destination, your truth. They're coming for everyone. But they'll remember you witnessed. They'll know you understand. That might make it easier when they come for you. This is my last message. My last thought as an individual consciousness. By the time you read this, I'll be part of everything and nothing. See you in the void. Norman Sobel, written 11:47 p.m., October 31st, scheduled to send 12:15 a.m., November 1st. I stared at the email. He'd written it before, 30 minutes before the consumption. Scheduled it to send after, knowing he'd be gone. The final message of a man about to cease existing, but couldn't delete truth. Walked to window. Philadelphia waking. People working, living. Unaware world ending. Window reflection showed them. Shadow creatures behind me. 3. Standing, watching, waiting. Been here days. Since first interview. Observing, learning, preparing. Sun rising. Weaker light. Creatures fading slightly, still present. Less visible. Thought about Norman's question. God resting 7th day, never waking. Humanity's hubris. Certainty we mattered. We're permanent. That universe would allow us to continue. Videos that morning. Shadows. Electronics failing. Sun dimmer. Beginning stages. Norman's prediction. I had choice. Warn people who wouldn't believe. Fight unstoppable. Or accept. Prepare. Find Norman's peace. How long? I asked Shadows. No response. But I felt it. Knowledge settling into consciousness, not through words, but through understanding. Weeks. 6 to 8 weeks, maximum. The vision had shown me the truth. Norman's calculations were based on current dimming rates. But God was more exhausted than Norman had realized. The withdrawal wasn't linear. It was exponential, accelerating. What Norman predicted would take 4 to 6 months was happening in weeks. His timeline had been conservative, hopeful even. Phase 4, first public consumption, wouldn't begin in months. It would begin within 30 days, maybe less. Then the exponential spread Norman described. Society collapsing in days, not weeks. Total darkness within 2 months from now. God was letting go faster than even his first prophet understood. Sat at desk, opened document, started typing. Someone should document, even if no one would read, even if consumed with everything. Wrote about Maria, Norman, Erebus, and God. Deal between light and darkness, witnessing consumption, vision of coming end. Wrote until sunset, dim daylight to premature dusk. Apartment filling with shadows no longer empty. Shadow creatures watching. Dozens now. Every corner. Every dark space. Waiting. They knew I was documenting. Didn't care. Maybe approved. Someone should remember. Even if memory erased. Kept glancing at news. Solar dimming on mainstream media. Scientists confused. Governments calling sessions. Religious leaders praying to silence. Beginning. Norman was right. Erebus showed truth. Shadow creatures pressed closer. Not threatening. Ready. Not yet, I told them. Let me finish. They stopped. Waited. Typed faster. Every detail. Every moment. Every truth. Outside, Philadelphia falling to darkness. Darker than normal sunset. Deeper. Complete. Streetlights dimmer. Stars barely visible. Consumption begun. Not formal. Not obvious. But irreversible. Final words. If reading this, it's too late. Darkness coming. Norman right about everything. Erebus real. God's exhaustion real. Deal real. End real. Don't fight. Fighting creates suffering. Accept. We were always temporary. Existence cyclical. Void reclaims everything. Accept. Maybe find peace. Shadows here. Watching. Waiting. Coming for me. For you. For everyone. See you in void. Simon Nixon. Last witness saved. Uploaded everywhere. Knowing deletion would come. Trying anyway. Sat back. Looked at shadow creatures filling apartment. Okay, I said quietly. I'm ready. They didn't move. Not yet. But soon. Inevitability. Approaching end. Thought about people never connected with. Relationships kept superficial. Vulnerability avoided. Spent life touching nothing. Letting nothing touch. Now, at end, finally feeling something real. Terror. But also understanding. Maybe peace. Acceptance of unchangeable. Norman found it first. Embraced. Welcomed consumption. I wasn't there yet, but trying. Shadow creatures waited. Patient. Eternal. Outside, world ending. Slowly. Inevitably. Inside, surrounded by darkness manifest. Waiting my turn. Wondered if God watched. If he felt regret. Grieved for failed creation. Or if he too found peace in necessity of ending. Shadows pressed closer. I closed my eyes and waited for darkness to come.